G'day and welcome. Let's have a look at the season of Lochie O'Brien. Give him a report card. Sort of looking forward to this one. There's some I probably look forward to more than others over the next couple of weeks or so. And this is one I've been doing a little bit of work on. 23 years of age. He'll be, in fact, he's still 22, but he'll be 23 in a couple of weeks' time. He's now notched up to 60 AFL games across 5 seasons at Princes Park, and a career best 19 games in 2022 under new coach Michael Voss. Played the 3 VFL games. We'll get to that shortly, why that happened and when it happened. Interesting the way his career's sort of panned out across those 5 seasons. If you break down his games in each season, he started off 18 in his first year under Brendan Bolton, 17 in his second season under Brendan Bolton. And then when David Teague took over, he went and 1 and then 5 last year. Really interesting. What happened in Queensland when the players were up there in the hub. He only played the 1 game that season. There was no injuries. He just spent the entire season in the VFL and got that 1 game. I remember it against Adelaide late in the year, that game where we got beaten. I think it may have been Bryce Gibbs's farewell game. And he looked terrible. He looked out of shape. He looked anything but physically an AFL footballer right then. And last year, just the 5 games. So much so, he went onto the rookie list at the end of last year after being taken pick 10 in the 2017 draft. He's a winger. His position is the wing. And if reports are correct, I don't think the club have announced it yet, that he has signed a 2-year contract, which will see him remain at the club until 2024. That has not been confirmed by the club. I don't believe it has, but that is the rumours that he has already signed. It's interesting why they would keep that under wraps if it is true. Anyway, it's copped a lot of criticism, haven't we, for that 2017 draft? I know, obviously Paddy Dow and O'Brien taken in the top 10. I don't really want to go there, other than saying it's not a really deep draft. And I look at Sydney's pick at pick 14, and they picked up Matthew Ling. And he only played 4 games and was delisted last year, so they got it wrong in that draft with a first round draft pick. He's now playing with Geelong in the VFL. So Lochie O'Brien's still with us, and maybe there's a little bit left to play out with Lochie O'Brien. We're just going to have to wait and see. Season snapshot. Started in the seniors, played the first 4 games, and then was omitted after the loss to the Gold Coast Suns up there at Metricon Stadium. Played a couple in the VFL. Didn't rack up large numbers at VFL level, but he returned for the North game in round 7. And played 10 consecutive games with us in the seniors. And was sort of surprisingly, I think, come as a bit of a shock. He wasn't awful against the West Coast Eagles in that big win for us over there in the West. But he was omitted and played another game in the VFL, returned for the round 19 game against GWS, which was another win. But then he found himself omitted again. So that's 3 times in the 1 year that he was dropped. And that was after the round 22 loss to Melbourne, where he was poor. He got a reprieve when Sam Walsh went out late before that round 23 game against Collingwood, and he came in. And I thought, for the most part, he was actually okay in that round 23 loss. I actually thought he wasn't too bad. He wasn't our worst. Let's have a look at his stats across his 19 games. 17.7 disposals in the AFL for his positions rated average, but yeah, he can find the ball. 4 times over 20 plus touches. And if you compare that to someone like Marley and Pickett, who Lochie O'Brien played in round one, I thought Pickett was instrumental in that game, particularly early. Pickett only averages 15.7, and I really rate Pickett as a wingman. He's definitely got a higher kick to handball ratio. Lochie O'Brien loves to kick the ball, so he averages 12.5 kicks a game, which is above average. Meters gained around about 368.1, which is above average. Marley and Pickett at 333.5, so he's better than Marley and Pickett, but he kicks the ball, so you'd expect him to have pretty decent meters gained. In fact, I would have thought he may have had a little bit further than that. Score involvement, below average, 3.9, compared to Marley and Pickett, who's 4.6. Disposal efficiency, 68.5%, which is below average. Pickett, excellent at 75.5%. Why am I comparing him to Marley and Pickett? Only because they played on each other in round one. I thought Pickett had the better of him, had a really good season. So I'm just sort of making a bit of a comparison with another winger in the competition. We know his kicking efficiency was above average at 66%, whereas Pickett's at 71%, which is elite. Uncontested possessions, we know he gets most of his ball on the outside, 14.5, which is above average. Contested possessions, below average, 3.5. He's not a contested possession player. He's an outside player. Inside 50s, average at 3.2. This is the one, which I think, I think he needs to develop, and that is the intercept possessions. And I think the best wingers in the competition have the ability to intercept the ball. He's running at 2.3 below average, and Pickett's elite at 4.7. Goals, hit the scoreboard, 5 goals, 9, which is rated average. I thought his best games this year, I liked his game in round 2 against the Bulldogs. I know it was a career high 25 possessions, but it wasn't just that. I thought he was probably on the cusp of being dropped after round 1 because he was pretty ordinary. I know he kicked the goal late in that game and we won. But I thought he got his pants pulled down by Marley and Pickett in that game, and I thought, he might find his way back to the VFL just after one game, but he hit back really hard against the Western Bulldogs and played exceptionally well in that game with 25 touches. I thought him and Cottrell in the round 15 win over Fremantle at Marvel Stadium. Thought they were really good, both of those that day. We had 19 disposals and 2 goals. Both of them hit the scoreboard. Worst games, mentioned the Richmond one. Don't want to mention that again in round 1. And the round 22 game against Melbourne. I remember it. It's quite recent. I just remember James Jordan. He played on James Jordan's wing. I think Jordan's a second-year player or a third-year player. He's only young. I just thought Jordan dominated that wing, and it was a real opportunity for O'Brien to have a really big impact in that game because on the other side of the ground, we had Cottrell going with Langdon, and I thought Cottrell had the better of Langdon in that game. And, O'Brien lowered his colours and made that mistake late in that game. He wasn't the only one who made a mistake late in that game, but, that sort of knock-on to space, which enabled Melbourne to get that ball inboard, was costly. So let's have a look at some of his strengths. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that he can just run all day. His endurance is elite. Him and Cottrell they're just machines, running machines. And his defensive running's really good as well. And I love that term, that sort of new term. I don't like many new terms that have been brought in, but this one I like. He keeps his width, he really does, and he's a point post to point post type of winger. He really gets back to assist in the back half and then can get forward and become dangerous, as a loose going inside forward 50. So he is, in that regard, as a winger, quite disciplined. I think he's a disciplined player. I think he listens and understands the position that he's played. So I see that as a strength, because it really is, and has become a really specific position to win, and one which is, I suppose, at times a little bit misunderstood. I think his kicking generally is good. Yeah, I think he's a pretty good kick, and probably one of the better kicks in our team. And I think, obviously his outside game is his main weapon and his strength. And I think he's starting to, find that ability to demand the ball a little bit more. When racking up an average of 17.7 disposals, playing on a wing, across 19 games, he's pretty decent, I would have thought. Some of his weaknesses, there's a few, I reckon. I don't think he's got good breakaway speed. In fact, I feel like he's a bit of a plotter at times. I know he can run and run and run, but he doesn't have genuine speed. And is that a worry? He covers the ground okay to get back and forward, but can he break away when he gets the ball? Sometimes he's under pressure quite a lot because he doesn't have that breakaway speed. He's definitely not a power strength type footballer, so he's not explosive. He's not a great tackler. I think that's an area of his game he's really trying to develop. He sort of has a crack now, but it's at times I feel his tackling's a bit comical, to be perfectly honest. I just feel like it's, I don't like to use the word weak, but I just feel like there's something brutal about his tackling. And I don't know if we should be expecting that from him, but yeah, it's not a strength. He's not a good mark. I think a lot of the wingers in the competition are decent marks, like it's a feature of their game. I think he still lacks a little bit of confidence that he really does belong. I think that's starting to grow. And I just don't think he's an impact player. And what I mean by that, does he have a standout feature, that can make him a damaging player? And is he competitive enough for this game? Both physically and emotionally. So they're the question marks for me on Lochie O'Brien. Myth. I think the myth is he's an elite kick, and I hear it all the time from our supporters. Lochie O'Brien's an elite kick. I don't see it. Maybe I'm watching a different player, but I don't see him as an elite kick, and his stats certainly don't say he is an elite kick. I think he's a good kick. And maybe it's just because we don't generally have really good kicks in our team that he stands out in that regard. I'm not saying he's a bad kick. I think he's a good kick, but he's not in the elite category. In fact, I probably wouldn't even have him in the top 40 or 50 kicks in the competition. And I haven't done a list of that. But it's not something where I go, wow, look at his kicking. I think his strength with his kicking is when he's able to get the ball on the outside and kick it inside forward 50. He weights it really nicely. I think if you're a forward coming towards Lochie O'Brien, he's got this ability just to weight it nicely, okay, so it can be marked out in front. But I think he just lacks penetration and power with his kicking. We'll see how that one develops. I think it's a myth that he's an elite kick in the competition. One word for Lochie O'Brien. I'm going to put resilience. Yeah, I'm going to put resilience. I think he's got I don't know him. I just get a feeling he's got a really good attitude. And I think he works really hard to get better and to make something of his AFL career. To be put on the rookie list and now sort of hit back and play the 19 games and be omitted 3 times throughout the year. But, I think resilience is the word that I'm going to label Lochie O'Brien right here, right now. I think that's a decent trait with him moving forward. My mark, I'm only going to give him a 5 out of 10. And you might think, well, that's quite low, but he's been omitted 3 times throughout the season. And I don't think there'd be many players across any club in their 5th season who would be omitted 3 times in a season who would then go on to sign a 2-year contract. So what I mean by that, I think it's just a pass. I think he's definitely improved and he's been given opportunities. And I think he has the attributes that we need in a winger. And that is essentially that running ability. But I don't know, funny as it sounds, I'm actually treating Lochie O'Brien as a first-year player. I don't know. Which he is not, obviously. He's going to be going into his 6th season next year. But I just feel like he was so underdeveloped when he arrived at the football club and underdeveloped in his first 4 years. Now, I don't want to get into whether the club developed him well over that period of time. I just feel him as a footballer, just as a person in regards to playing AFL football, just physically and even maybe emotionally, just, I don't even know if raw is the right word. You know, maybe an athlete, but just so, I don't know, so, is it weak? Physically not capable? So I'm actually seeing him now as a first-year player. So this year, at the age of 22, 23, this is his first year. So it's very difficult to get a grasp on where he can get to in that regard. But I think the club will back him in if it's true that he's signed a 2-year contract. Obviously, they will. But that doesn't necessarily mean, if we've got our feelers into Blake Acres, that are they happy with our wingers? Are they essentially happy with Cottrell and O'Brien? Yeah, that's an interesting one, because Blake Acres he's a genuine wingman and a pretty bloody good one as well. So competition for spots. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for Lochie O'Brien. Please tell me what you think. Is that a fair assessment for O'Brien? Appreciate all the comments below from my first 3 videos, report cards. Looking forward to your input in regards to Lochie O'Brien. Speak soon.